You are live.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And this is the Safety Committee meeting of the City of Youngstown City Council. Today's date is March 25th, 2021. The time is 3:00 p.m. I'm Anita Davis, chairperson of this committee and Sixth Ward City Council. Also present today are committee members, Vice Chair Jimmy Hughes, Committee Member Basha Adamzak, Councilwoman Samantha Turner, Councilman Julius Oliver, Kyle Mysak, our terrific finance director, Rick Deek, our IT guru, Jennifer Ossinger, another guru, Gail Slattery, our the grant writer for the Youngstown Police Department, Chief Carl Davis, Youngstown Police Department, and Chief Barry Finley of the Youngstown Fire Department. Did I miss anyone? Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. And our terrific City Council Clerk, Valencia Morrow. Okay. That was item number one, is the chairperson's roll call. Second item is under new business. And the first presenter today will be Chief Barry Finley, Youngstown Fire Department. Chief, you're on. You want to give us an update of what's going on? Chief, unmute yourself. Are you there? Pause. Okay. Rick, can you contact Chief?
Yep. Let me call him right now.
Chief Finley, and we'll wait for 1 minute.
Okay. Stand by.
Okay. While we are waiting, I don't want to go to the next item because the next item on the agenda is Chief Carl Davis of the Police Department, and it's going to be a little longer presentation. How are we looking, Rick?
You said 1 minute, you only give him 20 seconds.
Okay, Chief Finley, he's going to dial in right now. Here comes Chief Finley.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, Chief Finley?
Yes.
If you want to go ahead and start your presentation, give us an update of the Youngstown Fire Department.
Copy that. The fire department, so far this year, if you look at the PowerPoint that I sent you, I still have my the request that I made for this year, and I want to state the reason why for my ask. So far, between, just to show you how busy we are, just from January 1st to March 15th, our total calls for service. Now, when he say total calls for service, that's not just fires. That's every time somebody picked up the phone and called 911 for the fire department. And so far this year, since March 15th, we're up to 762 calls for service, with out of those 24 being residential structure fires and 6 car fires. We've had no commercial fires, at least not yet this year. But with our fire department, we actually get, by the end of the year, we will have all of these calls, both commercial and residential, where we will have all these calls. Now my ask for the personnel is because of the amount of runs that are coming in through 911 for medical assistance. If you check slide 4 under Amr Run Stats, I got these run stats from them for the same amount of time, from January 1st to March 15th. In that period of time, they had 88 calls for service. And again, in the EMS business, that's every call. That doesn't mean that they transported them all, but that's just every call they got between that time. Now, out of those 88 calls, as you see, 86 of those resulted in actual physical transports to the hospital. Now, if we were running first responder, out of those 86 calls, every single one of those calls would have required a first response. Every single one of those calls. And that's what's important, because, and I'm not saying that AMR did anything wrong, because to my knowledge, as of yet, they haven't, but that's 86 calls. So that's 86 residents that have called for an ambulance that would have had a fire truck there a whole lot faster than AMR could possibly, unless the call happens to come to them and it's a block away, which hardly ever happens. The fire stations in the city are strategically located that when it pertains to EMS, we could have a fire truck on the scene between 4 to 6 minutes. And when you're talking a medical emergency, that could be the difference between cardiac death and saving a heart. Go to the next one, the NFPA. And this has been known for quite some time. So this is not nothing new. As you see, fire-related calls in the entire United States are steadily declining, and that's for a lot of different reasons. Most of which is the Ohio Fire Code, but the fire code in general. The fire code in general is getting more stringent as far as building materials, how buildings are made, how buildings are designed, the structural integrity of a building. So all of that plus alarms and fire alarms, all this goes into play when it comes to the amount of fires that we're having. Nobody fought as much fire, even New York never fought as much fire as Detroit. But some 30 years ago, the International Association of Firefighters have decided that, you know what, fires are declining. We better start doing other things. And those other things falls under EMS. EMS now does fall under the fire service because, again, like I said, you don't have, even private ambulances, you don't have a private ambulance company that can respond faster than the fire department can, because a private ambulance company could be at their station, they could be posted on a street corner, whereas fire stations are strategically located in any city that, and they're strategically located for one thing: response times. So nobody could beat the fire department into an area, especially when that area is in that district of that fire department. So we are the ones now that the public is looking to. In this instance, we might not be able to transport you to the hospital, but we certainly can first respond, getting there a lot quicker and doing the same exact thing that an ambulance will do when they get there. But my initial vision is, I want us to do first responders so that we can get there, so we can offer the same amount of care, the same amount of drugs given, the same amount of treatment, the same amount of stabilization. And the only thing the ambulance will have to do is take our care from that point to the ER. And the quicker that we get to people, the better their outcome is going to be. going to the next slide, EMT and paramedic first responder. Now this is my brainchild. This is what I want us to do. Now, I would love for us to have an ambulance, a transporting ambulance like we used to have, but right now in the city, with what's going on in the city, that right there is down the road. Yeah, I think it's going to happen, but as the old adage goes, you have to crawl before you can walk. And for us, crawling is going to be to start an EMT paramedic first responder program on the fire department. As of right now, we have 29 EMTs and 25 paramedics. And a lot of us paramedics, like, I'm one. So you got chief officers that are paramedics. We have captains, lieutenants that are paramedics. But all you need is one paramedic on a truck, one EMT on a truck with the proper equipment, and obviously a medical director with standing orders. And we can do exactly, and I mean exactly to the letter, every single thing a transporting ambulance can do except transport. And as I said, this is my brainchild, and this is the initial. This is what I want us to do initially. Down the road, 3 years from now, yes, I would like for us to step over and actually get an ambulance or ambulances and start transporting our patients. But in this instance, right now, the most cost-effective thing for us to do would be to start first responder. And as you see, we got engines, ladders, they're dispatched. As long as you got the proper equipment, the proper personnel on there, when they get to the scene, it doesn't matter what that scene is. When they get to the scene, they can do exactly everything that anybody else can do except for actually transport. Now, going to the next slide, I gave two examples here. A fire departments that provide first responder services. The city of Lorain, they're comparable to Youngstown as far as population is concerned, because they have a little over 63,000. We're around 60, 61,000. They only have 79 firefighters in 4 stations. And I forgot to put the number of first responder calls, but they respond to roughly, I talked to the fire chief yesterday, roughly between 2,700 and 3,000 calls a year. Whereas Boardman, just south of us, they have less stations, less firefighters, but their number of calls last year, he said, was 3,500, but that was only because of COVID. They normally average 4,000 calls for first response a year. So in a city like Youngstown, our calls for service as far as EMS is concerned is roughly 15 to 17,000 calls for service in the city of Youngstown. And all that means is, it doesn't mean that's how many people are transported. All that means is 15 to 17,000 people call 911 in this city for medical attention. It doesn't mean that's how many you transport. That's how many comes in. Now, the calls that require an ambulance to respond, any call that requires an ambulance to respond, lights and sirens, those would be our first responder calls. Those will be the same calls that AMR is dispatched to, and we will be dispatched to, because AMR is not going to run lights and sirens on somebody that, just for an example, they're not going to run lights and sirens on someone that broke their hand. That's not an emergency.
Okay, Barry, I'm going to interrupt you for one moment. I see Bosch's hand is up, and it's been up for some time. So remember where you're at, Councilwoman Adamczak.
Thank you, through the chair. Chief, a couple questions, because you mentioned that some of our firefighters are current EMTs that were paramedics, right? And you want one per truck, and you were saying then those trucks would need equipment. So I would like to know the cost of what that equipment would be. But then my primary concern is I am assuming that based on the union contract, since these are not any of their current responsibilities and duties, would the firefighters be willing to take on these additional responsibilities without additional compensation? Or would they only be willing to take on these duties if they have a pay increase?
Through the chair, obviously I can't speak for the union. We're in the process of union negotiations right now. We just finished up with our last fact-finding meeting last week. To answer your question, the first one, we have enough EMTs and paramedics to put on not all the fire trucks, but the majority of fire trucks, because don't forget, we operate off of 3 different turns, A, B, and C turn. So the amount of paramedics and EMTs that we have right now, we don't have enough to put on every truck on every turn. That's my ask for more personnel so that we can get to that point. Because obviously the people that I would hire would be they could be EMTs, but I would prefer to hire paramedics since that's the direction the fire department's going. And as far as the cost, I am actually working on that as we speak, getting my EMS guy. Just to give you an idea, LifePak 15, which is the most up-to-date cardiac monitor there is right now. One LifePak 15 is about $60,000, but the capabilities is unsurmountable because it enables us to, while we're on scene, we can actually send the rhythm to the ER to let them know this is what we got. We actually have an MI and we're coming in, and let the doctor see it before we even leave the house. The doctor sees, okay, we got ST elevation, we got an MI coming in, call a cath lab. So by the time the ambulance arrives, it literally, you go right through the ER directly to the cath lab. That patient's on the table and getting a stent placed or arteries opened up because the monitor is that good.
Let me.
But everything else.
Basha, you had a follow-up?
Thank you. As a direct follow-up, so I mean, I guess that's what I would be looking for, Chief, just like a comprehensive cost analysis of what that would cost. And I know you mentioned that ideally we would then like to have a complete ambulance service, but as I mentioned at the previous meeting, my concern would then be based on demographics of our city, most residents don't have private insurance or uninsured, and that odds are for the reimbursement of Medicare and Medicaid, I mean, it was mentioned that we would not even be breaking even. So that's something that we have to think about. But in terms of having an EMT and paramedic on the truck, I think that's good. We just have to get a cost of what the equipment would be to equip our trucks with that. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Barry, Chief, I do have a question for you. So this LifePak 15, that's standard on all ambulances that are running locally?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. And rather quickly, I need you to, because you do use a lot of letters, and I've asked this before. Explain to people like me, because I'm a little slow. What's the difference between an EMT, paramedic, and EMS?
Okay, EMS, that's the acronym for
And what is the first responder versus a firefighter?
Okay. EMS is just an acronym for emergency medical services. First responder. Let's start with EMT. Everybody has a certification. We're all EMTs. EMTs just has 3 different levels. Basic EMT, which is, if you are a basic EMT, if that's what your certification is, that means the most you can do for a patient. The most you can do for a patient, well, they've changed it, but the most you can do for a patient, if a patient is not breathing, the most you can do is use a bag valve mask, put over their face, and bag them and to ventilate for them. You can't give any drugs, you can't give any medications. Unless that patient's having an allergic reaction, actually anaphylactic reaction, then a basic EMT can give epinephrine. But that's the scope of their practice. Now, an advanced EMT can do everything a basic can do, plus they're allowed to start IVs, which is essential when it comes to medication administration. They're allowed to start IVs, and they are allowed to assist a patient that's having chest pain with, if a patient has, most of the time, if a patient has nitroglycerin, they normally have what they call angina. This patient, the doctor has them on nitro pills, a very small pill that goes underneath your tongue. An advanced EMT can help, and that's the key. They can help the patient administer the nitroglycerin pill.
And a paramedic?
Now, EMT paramedic, that is the highest level of pre-hospital that you can get. And quite frankly, there is nothing that we can't do out in the field. We can do everything a basic can do, everything an advanced can do. Plus, we know cardiology. We can read we can read and interpret and treat a cardiac rhythm. We have cardiac drugs. We have pain medication. Breathing treatments. We can deliver babies. A paramedic can pretty much do anything out in the street that you can possibly think of. And that's the difference. We're all EMTs. It's just EMT basic, EMT advanced, and EMT paramedic. And now a first responder is actually below an EMT. And that's what you actually are. You're just a first responder. You can put a patient on oxygen, and that's probably pretty much all you can do. You can put a patient on oxygen. You can help extricate a patient. But as far as actual treatment, you can't really do much as a first responder. But in my vision, what I want to do, that's why I want EMT and paramedic first responder. Now, all my guys are responding to a call, but they can act whatever their skill level is. If they're EMTs and they get to that patient's house, they can function as an EMT. If they're a paramedic and they get to that patient's house, they can function as a paramedic.
Okay, thank you. Basha?
Sorry, thank you. Through the chair, Chief, this is going back to my original question though about the concern with the union. So I don't see anybody from our law department on, but I believe that Lorraine and Boardman, these functions, Chief, that you're referencing, this is already part of their day-to-day duties. As these union negotiations are going on with our firefighters, and I don't know if that would be on you, Chief, or law department, can you guys make sure to mention that in the negotiations, that this is something that we're seeking to do, and it seems to be, regular tasks for other fire departments? I just want to make sure that this is brought up during the negotiations.
Through the chair, we have brought that up in these negotiations right now. We're running into just a little bit of static. The reason now, we can run first responder. If the union agrees, we can run first responder right now with no problem. All they'd have to do is agree to it. But down the road, they're looking down the road at, okay, if 3 or 4 years from now we want to run ambulance, well, that's where everything gets all cloudy, because back in the day when the city had an ambulance, those guys worked in a fire department ambulance. They worked at a fire station. They responded out of a fire station. But at the time, that was in the 70s. Firefighters didn't want anything to do with EMS. So those firefighters were never a part of Local 312, the actual firefighters union. They became ASME employees. Even though they worked at the fire department, worked on a fire department ambulance, responded out of fire station, they were ASME employees. And so in 1991, when the ambulance shut down, ASME created a legal document that said if the city of Youngstown ever gets another transporting ambulance, those jobs belong to them, not Local 312. And so
Chief,
that's right now, that's what the static is, because the union is looking down the road at, if we want to start this, how are we going to be able to start it when those jobs are going to belong to another union? But they know that first responder, there's nothing stopping them from being first responders, nothing at all.
All right, thank you.
So in short, yeah, I'm sorry. So in short, there currently, as it stands, there is apprehension to take on these responsibilities without additional compensation? Basically, yes.
Through the chair, yes. But I had talked to
Okay.
Kyle last year. And we agreed on compensation for him as far as we were gonna offer a stipend to for lack of a better word. We're gonna offer a stipend to everybody to run first responder.
Thank you, and thank you. That's all.
Okay, I see that the law department is on. Basha, if you want to ask Attorney Limbian anything about that?
Oh, okay. Hello,
Hi.
Jeff. Hi.
Sorry, I was on and then I had to jump off and I'm back. I apologize.
No, that's okay. So I was inquiring because we're talking about having our firefighters perform EMT and paramedic services. And I was wondering how that would work during union negotiations and if it could be brought up during these negotiations to add that to their contract. Or I was asking Chief if the firefighters were apprehensive in seeking additional compensation for those duties. So during these negotiations, is this something that could be brought up, Jeff?
It could be brought up, and I, at the risk of maybe discussing negotiation issues publicly, could I say theoretically, academically, yes, that's certainly possible. I guess it's a matter of deciding, I think, from the administrative and chief's position, whether or not it's best to keep those in two separate lanes or to join them all into one lane. I think that's probably where the main sticking point is, but it's certainly an option to bring it up in these current negotiations if that's the way everybody wanted to go.
Thank you.
Counselor, without going into details about the negotiations, do you have any feel about the union? Is this something that they would want to do, or do they is there some indication that they don't want to do this kind of service for Youngstown's residents?
Well, I only know about some of this anecdotally from the chief and other sources, but at first I think there was reticence to be involved, and now I think that there is some interest there, provided certain things happens, and those things may be a bridge too far. I think that's maybe the easiest way to put it. I don't know if we entered into that kind of a. I don't know that we could come to terms. Once again, just speaking from an academic standpoint, we could certainly have an executive session meeting about it, but my appreciation from the few discussions that I have had is that we're miles apart. But listen, hope springs eternal, and it would certainly be lovely. It's the administration's constant view that we can come to terms about more things than not, but we will have to make sure, you see I'm choosing my words carefully, that we're not intractable and unwilling to make compromises on both sides.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, back to the chief. Chief, do you have anything else to discuss before we ask you more questions?
Yes, if you look at next slide, it shows you the next slide, Rick. It shows you exactly what's going on. No, the one prior, Rick. It shows you what's going on as far in 2018, the Nfpa Statistics. As you see, there's over 29,000 fire departments in the country, and only 38% of them provide no EMS. 38%. 45% is basic life support, and only 17% provide advanced life support. Now, and when you look at these, what they don't tell you is the 45% and the 17%. Those are volunteer departments. Those are volunteer departments, which in a volunteer department, you have to understand how they work. You know, normally Monday through Friday, you know, between the hours of, I would say, 7 in the morning to 6 at night, it's difficult for them to run any calls in the township or town or village that they live in, because most of them or all of them work a full-time job. So they can't respond. So, but, you know, after hours, and that's where you come into the 45%, 17% that run BLS and ALS transporting systems. Those are mostly the volunteers. The largest part of the fire service, especially the full-time career departments like mine, most of them provide some sort of EMS, be it first responder or paramedic, bottom line. And the fire service has been going like this, headed this direction, at least minimum the last 30 years.
Thank you.
And I've already explained the first responder, EMT, and BLS. But now, in summary, all fire departments all over the country are taking up some form of EMS. And the two major reasons are, and it's not a secret, fires are decreasing all over the country. That is not a secret. You can go anywhere to any city and see that fires are decreasing. And so we want to get into EMS because it's a pride thing. I mean, we want to be the ones to provide the service to our community. That's the way firefighters are. We want to be the ones. Now, in this city, you know, unless somebody needs the police, the fire department, we want to be your go-to department for anything else other than what you would call a police department for. And being a first responder and EMS, that's all a part of it. And we want to be the ones that provide the service. Nothing against AMR, because they're doing the best they can. But right now, we want to be able to supplement what AMR is out there doing for us.
Thank you, Chief. But if I'm hearing you correctly, while you're saying we want to be the go-to entity, your union is not saying that. Or am I misconstruing what you're stating? What you said? Am I misinterpreting? Because if we wanted to do that, we would have the means to do that. So you're saying we, but are you speaking for yourself? Are you speaking for the union? Is that a union position? Through
the chair, you know me. I can only speak for myself.
Okay, so that's what
I want the department to head in this direction, and under my leadership, this department will head in this direction. But right now, the union just feels that it's not in their best interest right now to provide this type of service to the community. But I'm hoping that by the time these negotiations are over, that they're going to change their mind. Because right now, yes, if we were talking about starting an ambulance, yes, then there would be a definite holdup because of the whole thing with ASME. But we're not talking about starting an ambulance. We're only talking about running first responder, provide a service to our community to help supplement what AMR is doing. And there is nothing that's stopping them from doing that. So I mean, I'm hopeful that they're gonna come around and say, you know, we want to do this also.
Thank you, but Chief, this to the other members of council. Do you guys have any questions before I quiz them? Samantha, Jimmy, Julius, Samantha?
I do, but my questions are unrelated. So if you're going to quiz them.
Okay, well, stay on this one then. All righty. Jimmy or Julius? No? Okay, well, Chief, I do have some questions. You're asking for 5 more firefighters. You already have 100. Lorraine, you said has 79. And you guys aren't doing these additional things right now. So please tell me, why would we give you even more if Youngstown and Lorraine are about the same size and you already have more than they do?
Through the chair, that's a valid question, but I want more because I know the direction that the fire department needs to go in. And what I don't want to happen, I don't want us to start in that direction and then it has to come to a complete halt because we don't have the personnel in order to accomplish that task. And if we're going to do this, and we are going to do this, I'm going to need more people. As I said, we have 29 EMTs and 25 paramedics. However, the paramedics that we have, they're all, I mean, I'm a paramedic. I got 3 of my battalion chiefs that are paramedics. I mean, so you have a lot of people with rank that, you know, that are paramedics. So me, I can't be in the street doing first responder all the time because I have other duties. The battalion chiefs, they can't be in the street running first responder time because they have other duties. So I need the people to start stacking the deck, having paramedics, so that when it's time for us to deliver this service, I not only have enough, I have enough to go around. Don't forget, I'm working with 3 different turns on 3 different days. And so I want at least, I would love a paramedic on every single truck, on every single turn. But at the very minimum, I want at least an EMT on every single truck and every single turn. And that's not what we have right now.
Chief, due respect,
Yes.
but your wants. I want you to tell me and explain to me how Lorraine is able to do the job that you anticipate or would like to do, how they're able to do that now with what they already have.
Through the chair. Well, the easiest way to put it is everybody on Lorraine are paramedics. Everybody
Okay.
on Lorraine are paramedics. So they don't have to worry about getting more bodies because all of them, all 79 of them are paramedics. So it doesn't matter what turn, it doesn't matter what truck, it doesn't matter time of day. At any given time that they go out, they're going to have a paramedic on that truck or on that apparatus. Now that's the highest level you can get. And so now the people in that community, they're probably getting, every time someone calls for 911, and they have a private ambulance company, in Lorraine that runs their actual transport, but there's not a person in that community that within 4 to 6 minutes after picking up the phone and calling 911, and it is an emergency call, that does not have a paramedic at their door in 4 to 6 minutes. And that means that's huge. That's huge. But Youngstown, we don't have that many paramedics. We really don't have that many EMTs. So, you know, you might, when I first became fire chief and I made us do first responder, there were times that went out that, you know, we had guys that go out that nobody on the truck was an EMT or paramedic.
Okay.
And so they were doing the best they could with the knowledge that they had, basic first aid.
I see, Julius. Thank you, Chief Finley.
You
Councilman
got it.
Oliver.
Thank you. Through the chair. Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just from what it sounds like, I know before when we lost Station 7, you said we would have more than enough firefighters to go around. So one of my questions is, did we lose more firefighters since Fire Station 7 was taken out of commission? And my second thing is, which is more of a comment, it sounds like to me, and like I said, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you need a new crew of firefighters because you're not getting the cooperation from the firefighters you have in order to serve the community according to your vision. So it just sounds like to me you want to bring on a new crew that's going to be able to, you know, execute your vision because you're not getting the cooperation that you would like to get from the current firefighters that you have. And is that wrong?
Chief Finley, if you wish to answer that question.
Through the chair, your first question, since 7's closed down, we have lost 1, 2, I believe 3. I believe we lost three people. I mean, one resigned and went to, actually one resigned and went to Austintown Fire Department. One resigned and went to Columbus to be a police officer. And the other one, Captain Farragut, he just retired. So we still have lost people. And like I said, by August, I'll be down 13 people altogether. Now, and I imagine if I had those 13 people and they were all paramedics, we could provide a service. I mean, right now we're mission ready. I mean, we're mission capable, but I want us to be mission capable and mission ready. And the only way to do that is to get the bodies that I need with the credentials that they need to have for us to provide this service. And as far as your other question, I mean, yes, I would like to have a fresh group of people to come in with the right frame of mind. That is the truth. I would like to have them with the right frame of mind. You're coming in, we're going to do first responder. You're going to have these credentials. You're going to maintain these credentials for your entire time. If you don't want to do this, then don't take the job.
So, follow the chair.
Julius?
So would I be wrong in assuming that the firefighter staff that you have now are more concerned with meeting their own needs than actually protecting the citizens according to, or providing the service according to the vision that you have? I'm asking that question because it
I'm
seems
gonna
like
cough and give the chief time to think.
I'm
Okay.
asking that question because it seems like there needs to be some restructuring within the fire department, or some shifting around, or some different type of negotiations, because I don't know if anybody else is willing to say this, but it just seems like people are putting their own needs or ambitions ahead of serving the actual community. And that's making it hard for you to actually do your job or lead the fire department in the way you see fit, or the way you know, to actually execute your vision for the community. And it seems like that issue would need to be addressed before we actually bring on a new crew, which will eventually just be affected by the old crew. And we'll be right back in the situation we're in now with more firefighters than we need, still not wanting to do the service because there's something else in their mind that's more important than serving the community. I said a lot, but
Respond.
Through the chair, yeah. I can say like this: you have 122 firefighters, and I can literally guarantee you, hands down, 80% of those firefighters are willing and ready to do whatever this city or these citizens need for us to do, and that is the truth. You when I tell you that you guys have an outstanding fire department, you really do. But just like in any organization, you're going to have a certain group that is going to dominate. And because of everybody else in the city works 9 to 5 and they go home. You have to understand, we're the only ones who live where we work. We work together, we sleep together, we eat together. And so when you are one of these young guys, it's really, you might have it in your heart that, you know what, the chief is right. We need to be out here. We need to run these first responders. We need to help these people. We need to get out here and do whatever we have to do. He'll say that to himself. But because he's young, he'd not dare say that out loud. Because the older guys, just like it was when I got on, the older guys, you'd not dare. And if the older guy is one of your officers, you're not gonna say a thing. You're gonna keep your mouth closed and hope for the best.
Okay, Chief, I have a question. Before you go, Samantha,
Yes.
I have a question for you, Chief, or a quick comment. You said you have people who are mission capable. You want people mission capable, mission ready. But what you have, what you've expressed to me, is that you have people who are not mission willing. And why would we hire because someone's not willing? Because, again, as Councilman Oliver has said, you have the bodies, they have the training, 29 EMTs, 25 paramedics, I believe is what you said. And we can train the additional ones. It would be less costly to train the additional ones, to bring them all up to the level of paramedics, rather than hire an entire new crew. You know, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'll take the spot. I think the media should go to the union and ask them are they willing to do this? Samantha, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question
The
first
gentle lady from the South.
from the South. Chief, can you give us an update on, just to offer this topic for a moment, an update on overtime, property, staffing conditions and needs, like just an overview. I understand, and I thank you for this presentation. And let me say that. Thank you for the presentation. I do think, just from my perspective, that you can continue to do your due diligence with the law department and get those questions answered that the Basha has posed, and some of the questions that Anita and Councilman Oliver have proposed to you, and in that due diligence, also creating a rubric for us that shows us like a cost benefit analysis to making this transition for your vision. So I really appreciate you bringing this to us today. But I just wanted to have a quick update on the current condition of the department overall, where we are. I know you gave us the year-to-date calls, and if you could tell us if we are ahead on those calls, behind on those calls, right on task like we normally would be. And then, of course, just go over where we are with overtime. How are your properties looking? I know you said you need a roof coming up here. Staffing conditions and needs, like just a quick overall overview, please.
I'm gonna just interrupt real quick, and Chief, and I know you have somewhere to go, but let's be succinct. Go.
Copy that. The overall our calls so far for the year, for us is about the average. It'll start picking up. You counsel people in your wards. It could really help. We put it on the city's website. This now is the time of the year when people go outside because of the fall and because of the winter, and start cleaning up their yards. Well, clean up their yards, they don't know what to do with the debris. So what do? They burn it. And so that's when our calls are going to start increasing. And it's easy. We put the rubbish fire out. They're burning leaves. They're burning wood. We put it out. But I would say 2 or 3 of those a year are regular house fires that we have, and people don't realize it. But they're from people. It's called open burning. People burn those twigs and that brush and those embers. The wind takes them, the wind blows them, and it lands on somebody's roof, and you have no idea. That roof can be a block down the street, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody's banging on their door and say, "Hey, man, your house is on fire." And it's because of that. That's why there's no open burning allowed in the city. So our calls are going to start ramping up. It's getting warmer out. So yes, our calls are going to start ramping up. As far as our fires are concerned, with the fire department, our fires are our fires. Sometimes it's extremely, extremely slow. We don't move anywhere for weeks or months, and then other times we don't stop running. But even that being said, our fires are still low. I got on the 93, so our fires are still low from when I got on. In each passing year, they're getting lower and lower. As far as my overtime budget is concerned, the last time you'd have to ask Kyle, because the last time I looked, I think we were a little over 65,000. I told the battalion chiefs at the beginning of the year, I won't open it up to just unlimited overtime. So the most amount of people that I allow in a day for overtime is 3. If you need more than 3, then shut down the truck. Because I'm not doing what I did. I'm going to attempt not to do what I did last year, which is for 8 months, 7 months, start brown out fire stations. So I'm going to try to make this last as long as I can. But also keep this in mind. Now that it is getting warmer and you have vacations coming up, every single turn. And I'm not talking about anybody reporting off. I'm talking about every single turn has a minimum of 7 people off a day. And that's through
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I'm going to do what I can with the money that with the money that I'm given, and I'm going to stretch it as far as I possibly can.
Samantha?
And just properties, if he could give us a quick update on his firehouses.
Right now, the only station that has a problem is Station 2 on Indianola. It has a leak in the roof. They noticed water coming down in one of the rooms, and unfortunately, the room is where all the phone lines and the cable lines and computer lines are tied into. The leak is not that big, but that is a big roof, and I believe those are 25-year shingles, and it's been about 30 years. So we're looking at getting the roof replaced. However, I talked to Chuck Sasho and talked to Kevin Flynn. There are other structures in the city. I know Kevin said the street department roof needs replaced. There's a building on Lois Court that needs replaced, and then there's one other one that needs replaced. And we're going to do, I think Chuck said, we're going to come to you guys and do a request for bids for all of them at one time, instead of having a company here, a company there, a company there. That way, if we give one company, they're probably going to cut us on the price, cut us a deal on the price. So we're going to try to do a request for bids for all of them to be done.
Chief?
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about the fire station, and they're talking about a place where it houses trucks. It's not the same.
No, we have trucks in the fire station. Is that what you mean?
What I'm saying is the room that's leaking, and you say that it's a room that has the wiring and stuff?
Yes.
Okay. And if that stuff gets damaged, will it not affect your ability to take the calls there?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's not on the same level with the place that's housing trucks. That's all.
Copy that.
Anyone else? Councilman Hughes, I haven't heard from you today. Anything for Chief Finley?
I think the chief has a vision, and I give him that. But we also into somewhat of an elections season here. I mean, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I'm not telling you have to run your station, but you're doing a little more than running the station when you're trying to project a potential outcome of an election. I just say that, and I don't know where it's going, and it don't really matter from this point. I think that we're just should be getting established with doing what doing with what we have. I would hate to see us do these short-term projections of major changes going in a direction and trying to make individuals and hire more people, and then come November this time next year, we got a whole new crew in management, or we had a whole new this and that. So what would that put us? And when a new administration, if the new administration comes in, if a new administration comes in and disagrees with all of that and disagrees with you even being fire chief, I think that you put a burden on us, and a maybe burden on us that this even has a reality of coming to forefront if something goes awry when the next election, after this election we're going through, comes through. Now, I'm not saying that I can't predict any elections. God knows I can't even predict ones I'm in. But point I'm just trying to say is that wouldn't it be more prudent for us to just concentrate on managing and running the department as it is, or it was as you were back? Let me say this: before you became chief, when you quote the number of 80-something% of the firefighters are this, and that 30, or that it wouldn't be 30, it'd be more like 15 or something percent that are not cooperative and not going back and forth. What was those numbers before you became the chief? What would you say the numbers were? And not to say answer back and forth, but if there's a flexibility, all I'm saying is that we're still at that crossroad now. I think it'd be more prudent for us to concentrate on managing the fire department and managing the personnel we have, and not trying to add personnel or forcing people to do something that their job description don't call for. And when they got hired, or when they accepted the job, they didn't accept the job as paramedics or however we want to quote it. But should we be in this time trying to get them to do this, and even you asking council to make a major thing? It's a burden, I think. Why put that burden on your shoulders? I'm just saying.
If I can answer him
Chief Finley, if you wish.
through the chair. That's a good question, Mr. Hughes. But in all honesty, it doesn't matter if Barry Finley is fire chief or who's the next fire chief. If they have a head on their shoulders, this fire department doing some form of EMS has got to be in the picture. There's absolutely no way around it. It has to be in the picture. Fire departments all over the country are doing EMS because the fires are dropping. So when our fires drop, what's our plan B? I'm the plan B. I know exactly what I'm doing in the direction that the fire department, not that I want it to go, but the direction the fire department needs to go. And that being said, it doesn't matter who the fire chief is. If he wants a fire department, if he wants what he has now and wants to provide a service, there's no way that this fire department cannot do some form of EMS. That is impossible. If not, then the fire department will fail. It will fail itself, and it will fail the community, without a doubt.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And we're at the 4 o'clock hour. I saw Basha's hand first, then Samantha's hand, and then Julius. So Basha, Samantha, and Julius.
Thank you through the chair. I'm not sure, Chief, if you have these numbers, or I see that Kyle is with us. Can you quickly just let me know where we are with overtime and where we were in the first quarter last year as to compare to where we are this year?
Through the chair, you're right. I don't. Kyle would have to have. I don't have those numbers.
Yeah. Just give me a minute. Okay. For the current year, if you look at regular overtime, we're about to post March. So once we post March for the 2 pay periods, regular overtime will be approximately $105,000 after 3 months this year for uniform. And last year, for the first 3 months, it averaged out to $32,000.
And that's not including holiday, or that is including?
It's not including holiday.
I'm just going to say wow. I don't know what else. I'm just going to say wow. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Samantha?
Thank you. With all due respect, Councilman Hughes, I'm going to say yes. We should be looking at this, and no, we should not be fearful of changes in administration coming. The council is going to be here. We'll still have staff here, and we can't be held hostage in making progress in our city because of personalities. and egos. So I again say thank you to the chief for presenting a way forward and a way for us to continue to grow and provide exceptional service to our city. And as a council, I don't think that we are fearful of changes that may or may not happen in the administration, because if we do this right and get community buy-in, and that means that we can move this forward and continue to move it forward. But I don't think that he's trying to do this in a vacuum. And if he did do it in a vacuum, then I would see cause for problems. But he's coming to us, talking to us, working with us, and then of course working through the department to see how we can make this happen as a unit. And if we do this as a unit, no matter who's at the helm, it will continue to move forward. So again, I think that we need to look at progress and make change so that we continue to make impact for our community and for our citizens.
Thank you.
Di- direct response, because you mentioned my name.
Please. And then Julius.
Council already made that decision when they abolished the paramedics before. So no, we're not fearful. He's still going against council, what we've already decided when we abolished the paramedics from what they had prior. So, say what you will. I was on the job when they had the paramedics, and I was on the job when council decided no more paramedics. So fearful is not the question. Listening may be the problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, what do you mean they abolished when did we abolish the paramedics?
When we had ambulances already on the job. We had this system already in place in the past. We had ambulance and we ran the trucks after we even abolished the ambulance. We had all of this when we had our 55s and we was rolling. That what the city had. It was abolished through council.
Okay. Julius.
In my turn. Oh, I'm sorry. So number one, I want to say the overtime numbers are ridiculous. Like that's crazy. And the overtime numbers were supposed to drop when Station 7 got taken out of commission. I think the overtime numbers show kind of the game that's being played. And to Samantha's point, the fire department does seem, and the public should know, so that we can get buy-in to make certain decisions. And I think there's something that the chief in the administration should be letting the public know. But Chief, I understand that you do not have the leadership that you need to make these decisions. You as a leader, great, but you don't have the leadership to be able to make these decisions and to let the public know that the fire station in some aspects is being held hostage. And you know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna say it, but that is what appears to be happening here. And when you talk about the EMS services, you really not presenting this to us in the way of that it's a necessity for the community. You kind of presenting this in a way as if it's a necessity for job security. That's what I'm hearing. I could be wrong, but it's like you saying fires are decreasing so much that the fire department has to have another way to be relevant. And that other way to be relevant is EMS services. That I may be hearing it wrong, but it doesn't sound like it's 100% like a safety issue. It sounds like it's more of a job security and a stabilizing issue. But I think you got to be able to let the public know that there are personality issues and there are ego issues going on in the fire department, which is holding hostage the progress that could be being made in the fire department. So that's just, I don't know if you got an answer for that, but that's how I'm hearing it. But I hear things different.
Okay.
I do.
Hold on, Barry, hold on. Okay. I do want to get this out, and then I want to get to the police department. You had a wish list, a want list, however you put it, 5 new firefighters, an assistant chief, a fire inspector, and a shop mechanic, which I can see, and the other things I truly don't see. I think you have the personnel, and it needs to be utilized properly. Councilman Oliver, you are correct about some of these things here, but we are the leaders, and he brought this to us. He's given us the presentation. He's providing us the information. The media is watching. The media should do its diligence. I'm going to ask Chief, is it about, and this is the question I'm putting to you that I want answered. Is it about wanting more money to do first responder service? Do they want is a bonus that's requested to do basic first responder service throughout the fire department? Is that what's required? Chief Finley?
Through the chair. Right now, as it stands, I had a talk with the union president and a few executive board members. They do not feel, at this time, they do not feel that running first responder would be in their best interest to serve the community at this time. And it's because, according to them, they want a recognition in the contract. They're looking for a recognition clause. The recognition, they want the city council, the mayor, they want the city to recognize them as firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. Well, we can't, that's an unfair labor practice. We can't do that because, as I've stated, those jobs belong to AFSCME.
Thank you.
And so because we won't do that, they're just taking a hard stance that if you're not going to recognize us, then we're not going to do it. Now we're still, I still talk to them in hopes that they'll change their mind. But until that happens, they're taking a hard stance that they don't want to do it because they're not getting what they're asking for.
Okay.
And I really would like to address Councilman Oliver. Because what he said, I mean, what he said was on point. It really was. But the only thing is, I don't want us to, my vision was never about us. My vision was never about the firefighters. I'm stating facts when I say that fire service all over the country have begun to do EMS because of the decrease in fires. And that's the truth. And you can Google, you can look it up anywhere and find that that's the truth. But the reason that I want us to get into first responder and then therefore in the EMS is because our community needs us. As we see, in most cities that don't have their own fire department run EMS system, they're ran by a private ambulance. And we already see what's going on with AMR. AMR, they're short staffed. They don't have enough people sometimes, or because of COVID, they're being tied up in the hospital. Either way it goes, when that 911 call comes in, they don't have a car available. Well, you don't have to have a car available because the fire department, we're always mission capable, mission ready to get to that citizen's house and then begin treatment until they can get there. So it's not about us. It's never been about us. And under my command, it will never be about us. It's always about the community that we serve. And running first responder and running ambulance is just another way for the fire service, for the Youngstown firefighters to serve this community.
I commend your passion. I agree with you that police, fire, every city employee, every elected official, we have one purpose, and that's service to the community. The community it's not there to give us a job. It's for us to perform our jobs across the board. And as I said before, and I'll speak about the police department, if they're not doing their job, then they don't need the job. I'll say that about the fire department as well. It has to be about this community. It must be about this community. Anyone else have anything for Chief Finley before we spring him?
Oh, thank goodness.
Basha, you're not free yet, Barry. Basha?
Thank you through the chair. Just a comment. I just want to commend Chief. I mean, I think he's doing a great job. And as we all mentioned, I mean, the dynamic he's facing is very challenging. But we have to keep, pushing forward. So thank you, Chief, for all that you do.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the presentation, Chief. It's not like we were planning on, this was a presentation. It was not any decision that was going to be made today. No, it was just a presentation giving us as council and the public as well, information that we all need to have so that everyone knows, has an idea of what's going on, and they can go up there and do follow-up. To Attorney Limbian, Jeff, if you would, please look up that piece that Chief Finney was talking about with the, I think it was the paramedic position, that it's that through the contract with AFSCME, that it remains their position. And if you can give us an email advising us of the language, if it's correct.
Through the chair, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else before the chief is freed up, before Chief Finley goes? Chief Finley, we appreciate you. We appreciate your service. And actually, I do appreciate the service and the service of the firefighters who are out there. I would not want their job. You couldn't pay me to do that job. So thank you to all of them. And I mean that too. Thank you to all of you for your service that you do for the community. Thank you so much. Have a good day,
Thanks,
Chief.
appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Chief Carl Davis, Youngstown Police Department. Chief.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good afternoon and good evening. And Chief, give us an update of what's going on at the Youngstown Police Department.
Okay, I'll start off first by saying the Youngstown Police Department, we currently have 139 police officers. 30 of those are detective sergeants. We have 8 lieutenants and 4 captains. In 2020.
Chief, I'm gonna stop you right now. Stop for 1 minute.
Okay.
Chief.
Yeah.
Stop for 1 minute. Jimmy, I need you to take over. My screen has frozen. Jimmy? Take over.
I got it.
Thank you.
Carl, please continue. Chief, can you copy me? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Anita had to step aside and please continue.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, the Youngstown Police Department has 139 police officers, 30 detective sergeants, 8 lieutenants, and 4 captains. In the year 2020, there were approximately 90,000 calls for service. In 2021, from January 1st, 2021 to the present time, there's been approximately 19,750 calls for service. The officers of the Youngstown Police Department are committed to reducing crime and improving the quality of life for all who live in and work in the city of Youngstown. They demonstrate unwavering pride in their daily performance and adhere to the department's core values of pride and commitment, professionalism and integrity, service and excellence, responsibility and accountability, fairness and diversity. The Youngstown Police Department provide a variety of services 24 hours a day. I would like to hire at least 8 new Youngstown police officers through the U.S. Department of Justice grant, our COPS grant, and to restore community policing in all 7 wards. An examination was recently given, and we're currently doing backgrounds. I would like to build all three turns and shifts to ensure adequate safety and staffing levels are met citywide. Presently, Youngstown Police Department is operating below the national standard ratio for supervisor to officers. I would also request 6 new patrol cars to the Youngstown Police Department fleet as a part of the recommended replacement schedule. The ideal replacement is every 3 years. Currently, we are replacing at a pace of every 5 years. As far as our training, in 2021, we have scheduled the use of force policy update and testing, vehicle pursuits policy. There will be update and testing, practical use of force training, including de-escalation and crisis intervention, bias-free policing, additional training there, human trafficking. There will be legal refreshers, CPR for first responders, and additional first responder medical training. I'm also prepared to talk about where we're at as far as the body cameras. If I may, Detective Sergeant Jose Morales Jr. is here with me to give you an update and status on where we are with the body cameras.
Through the chair.
Sergeant Morales, go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members. Just a brief update on where we're at with the implementation of the body cam program. Since we last met in January, we've met with 4 different body cam vendors. The first being Body Worn, next being G-Tech Solutions, then Motorola, and then finally a week or 2 ago we met with Axon by Taser, which was a very impressive demo. They stated that out of the top 1,200 agencies in the country, they pretty much hold 60% of that market. So they are very popular across the nation. One of the things that stood out to me with them in this demo is that they offer a sort of like a community engagement program where they will come out to community forums. They'll attend meetings like this, such as this, to kind of give you guys like the benefits of body cams and share all the details and the features that come along with them. And that's something that they offer for free before we even get the cameras. So that's sort of something that they do just to kind of sort of give back. One of the things, like I said, at the finance meeting, we also went to Akron a few weeks ago and spoke with them, and they are currently using Axon body cameras. They had nothing but good things to say about them. Very happy with the service, the data management, the data retention, the redaction software, everything that came along with that. The goal is to hopefully within the next month or 2, set up a trial period where they will give us 15, 20 cameras for approximately anywhere from 30 to 60 days so that we can try them out. So I've already got about 15 to 20 volunteers throughout the department that are willing to put those cameras on for our trial period, just to see how they work and get familiar with the program. Other than that, like I said, right now before we do that, I wanted to kind of draft up just a basic body cam policy so that when we do get them, we know what to do with them. These guys know when to turn them on and when they can turn them off before we get the demos rolled out, the trial rolled out. So that's where we're at right now.
I guess I should have had some review with your chief before I let him step away, but we're here with you now. And so I can't see everyone's photos. So if you got a comment, you want to say something, you're going to have to, let's see who we can get out to say something first, I guess.
Through the chair.
Yes, I see your hand, your blue hand.
Okay. So I just have a question. If you have some base numbers for each of those, if you could provide them. And then you said that at least Exxon is willing to do a demo. Can you tell us how does that work legally? So in case something is happening or captured, if we haven't accepted it, what are the legal ramifications of that?
So with the demo, everything that we record would be subject to public record. That's why we definitely want to get a policy kind of drafted up first. that sets retention periods and everything else for us before we actually, because even with the demo, just the trial period, all that's going to be recordings that will be subject to public record and will also still be ours, they advise. And as far as the pricing you asked about, I didn't bring those figures with me, but from off the top of my head, I want to say body worn was went on the higher end at $1 million. Motorola was about 320 some thousand, and Axon was, you were correct, Councilwoman Turner, last week when you said that it'd be somewhere in the middle. It was about $500,000, about 524,000.
Through the chair.
Just a moment. Samantha, you got a follow-up?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Anita, I guess you're back in the command seat?
No. You
Okay.
stay put. I said through the chair.
Go ahead. You got a question?
Yes, for Morales. Why would you have a camera for every officer as opposed to probably half that number and then assigning them out on a daily basis? Because when they're not working and when they're on vacation and on sick leave or whatever, they're just sitting there collecting dust. Is there some way that you could buy fewer cameras and download them so that they can be utilized from one shift to another shift?
You know what? We really haven't talked about it, but the way I kind of was looking at it was it's sort of like a radio that would be assigned to you. You know, in case, you know, you want to come in and you're going to work a job where you're going to be in uniform that evening or that day, you would be able to come in and pick your own camera that's going to have your own footage on it.
I'm going to apologize if okay. Well, you might want to check with Warren Police Department because they are not buying a camera for every officer.
Okay.
So check with them. They're working under federal guidelines. Okay, so you know they have to be kind of like whistle clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand about signing a thing for every radio, but you know that I'm as old as your old man, as your dad.
Yeah.
And in the age of the dinosaurs, radios were signed out with the shift.
Oh, that was before my time.
It was before your time. You weren't even. Never mind.
Yeah.
But
all right.
In all honesty, but what I'm saying is, radios can be signed out. It's something that we do now that we assign it to the officer, but a radio could be signed out. Again, even the radios, they sit at home.
Yeah.
And collect and they just sit. They're not being utilized.
Right.
And if we could save money, we could save money. And you buy extras so that in case you have the breakdowns and things like that. I mean,
right.
There is a way to do it without buying for every uniformed officer, who's working patrol division.
Yeah.
I just urge you to check with Warren Police Department, see how they're doing.
Okay.
Because in all honesty, we have officers who have 6 weeks of vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they get 15 sick days a year. And then we're going to just have that camera sitting there.
Right.
Okay. If they want to get you know what? They're working a side job. Come down to the station, get your camera,
mm-hmm.
and go out and work your side job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk that over with the chief for sure. Thank you.
Dollars and cents. Is the chief still on the air?
He's still here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, I don't want to bother you, Chief. Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay. Cal, excuse me. Are you raising your hand? Did I see you looking like you was trying to say something?
So sorry. No, I just think I was moving my hand. I apologize.
No problem. Any other questions? Anyone want to speak up?
About the body cameras?
About the body cameras for Officer Morales.
I had to log off and I came back on through the chair. So you may have already answered this. So what's the expectation for the rollout? you
Yes,
know.
ma'am. So like through the chair, my goal, like I said, we're working on the policy right now, which hopefully shouldn't take more than a few weeks. Hoping to roll out a trial within the next month or two. And then ultimately the goal is to have these cameras rolled out completely by end of July, early August.
It's almost reasonable. Thank you.
Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, through the chair. I was just wondering, have we checked out any local companies that may be able to supply these body camera services?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure of too many. We were just going with the well-known and companies that have good reputations around the country so far. And like I said, Axon appears to be one of the top ones. It seems like they really know what they're doing as far as data management, retention, and redaction. So,
Sergeant Morales, it's still true that the expense is in the cloud.
yes, and just to touch on Councilman Davis's note that the cameras are really the cheapest part. They're almost kind of given to you. You know what I mean? It's the software and the service that costs all the money on the back end. So the extra cameras are really nothing to them. They'll almost give them to you just for us to go with them. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think that's how you delivered it the last time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see Councilwoman Davis's point, you know, but you know, from what you described it before, the cost was in the cloud, and
exactly.
those equipments. And history has told us that individual equipment maintained by individual officers is better than the community equipment shared by multiple officers, you know, and they keep them better and everything else.
Exactly.
I'm just saying that, but it's no cost difference, and I can't see the savings, but if it is a savings, you know, we should know about it.
Right.
If you run across one.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for Officer Morales? Sergeant Morales, excuse me if I keep doing it.
That's all right.
You know, I would call Jose Sergeant every day, and I have to forgive that. Samantha, you can have the floor, and please don't slam me when you get to talking.
With all due respect, no, I'm joking. Officer Morales, so I just wanted to get this right in my mind. So by the next safety meeting, we should see a policy or a preliminary policy for moving forward.
Absolutely.
And then you want to do propose a 30-day trial run with the cameras?
Anywhere from 30 to 60-day trial, yeah.
30 to 60-day trial. And following that trial, at that point, we would be seeing a piece of legislation to move this completely forward. So the timeline based off of that is July at the earliest, we will be seeing full legislation for this if everything went in that way.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I like to say, maybe Kyle can answer this. I mean, I understand the trials and I understand the policies, and I understand going from one company to another. You know, when do the dollars have to speak? You know, and when should that? Because we haven't. There's no conclusion on how much. But so all of this, when do these companies, this one particular company with the trials and equipment, everything else, are we committing to happen to pay or buy, or how's that working with your timeline?
Jimmy, through the chair, can I address this?
Yeah, I was whoever got the answers. Yes.
Ultimately, we have to literally, it should be under an RFP where all of these vendors, we need to tell them, the ones that we've met with, what is it, the criteria, and they in essence should all be submitting to us a pricing so that we open them up, and based on that pricing, and then there should be a scorecard that the police department to put together so that we're not just looking at price, but also different things that they've learned. But we have to ask all of the vendors that they've met with to actually submit, because if we don't, potentially we could have an issue where we are, because this can't be sole sourced. All these entities are offering the same service. So it's not like we're trying to enter into an agreement with a party that is creating it or has a product that nobody else has. So under our charter, we are required to have all of the parties submit to us a pricing and what that pricing will cover and what it will offer. And from that, the department is going to have to determine, based on those specs, come to council with a recommendation, and then that recommendation has to be approved by you as a body.
So have you seen these specs there, Cal?
Through the chair, they are right now gathering information because you really can't learn from just reading. I think the department felt that the best way to get a good appreciation was to actually work with multiple vendors and bring them in and have them go over the equipment and how it works. And so that based on once they're finished with that process and they ask everybody to submit, that's how they'll develop a scorecard. And from that scorecard, they will have to present that to you to make this the suggestion of why you should be giving that, why the recommendation for the chosen vendor should be given so that we enter into contract.
Samantha, if you got a question that you can get in there before, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. It was actually just a follow-up. Cal kind of alluded to my follow-up was if along with that policy, you could provide us with a rubric of all the companies and their pros and cons, and then what your recommendation is. I don't know if all of them are offering 60 to 90-day trials at no cost to us, but those type of details I would like to know. But I think the policy you guys could like work and hammer out anyway. So along with that, I would like to see like just a rubric in writing what this looks like overall, and then of course the recommendation coming out of the department.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can do that for sure.
I would also recommend that you follow this up with the finance department and kind of get the checkpoints together so that we are in line and we don't make mistakes, you know.
Right.
So that, you know, I think that would be a wise thing to do. So anyone else got a question?
I didn't have my hand up.
You know, I clearly told you I don't see everyone because of my screen. You need to get a little more assertive.
I don't want that. Hey, thank you, through the chair. So if the cloud service is what's the most expensive thing, I had mentioned in the previous meeting that there's a company downtown Youngstown, tactical protection surveillance, that has that ability. And I think you might be able to save some money if you just use a company that's right downtown. So I don't know if you've approached that company or not, but I know I'm pretty sure they supply that service for Camel. And I'm not sure if they'd be able to do the same thing for us, or it's like, it shouldn't be a conflict.
What's the name of the company, Councilman?
Tactical Protection Surveillance.
All right, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
And I only know this because they reached out to me in an email and said they would be able to supply the service.
I got you. Okay.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
I think that's Councilman Davis.
Yep.
Go
Through
ahead.
the chair.
Yes.
Just to follow up on what Samantha mentioned, and I'm going to follow up on what she said or reiterate what she said. I'd like to see that policy at the next meeting, because we were told about that this policy was being prepared at the last meeting. It was going to be worked on. So I want to see your policy by the next meeting. I mean, you're not going to rewrite a whole policy. You're going to you're going to be looking at someone else's policy and then
exactly. Yeah, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Please make sure that gets to is ready for the next safety committee meeting.
You got it.
Thank you.
I don't see everyone. I am strolling. So if Basha, if you had something. No, no, no. I think we all good. Is the chief still
Yeah, I'll turn it
available?
back
Or-
over to the chief. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jose.
Okay, I'm back. Also on the agenda, through the chair, also on the agenda, you requested to speak with the grant writer. She is here. She was here on this call.
One second here before you keep moving us along, Carl. That's usually my job. But,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, Chief.
I'm just trying to make sure none of my colleagues have questions about the first part that you presented, and before you move along.
Okay.
So, Samantha, I'm sure that that little hand owns something about it, but go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair. So, Chief, you went over a couple of things that you are in need of. And let me just start here. You are asking to add 8 new officers, and you're saying because
At least 8.
at least 8 new officers, and you're saying that we are below the national average of supervisor to patrol ratio. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And those 8 new officers would take us where in that?
The 8 new officers.
How
Well,
does that clean up the ratio? How will we get closer to?
well, it may not address the ratio, but it would bring the community policing unit back up to full staff.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that before you said that you were just going to assign officers you were going to bring community police officer up to full staff, period. So you're not, unless you get the 8 new officers. I just want to be clear.
No, actually, they're 2 separate things that we're talking about here.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you get the 8 new officers, we will then increase community policing. That's what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to be clear. Next, my next question is about the 6 new patrol cars. You said that we are replacing them at a rate of every 5 years, and the suggested replacement is every 3 years.
That is correct.
Okay. And are the cars in such poor shape we have to replace them, or we just want to stay on schedule?
Well,
I'm sure it's recommended 3 years, but it's probably like a window. Are we just at the far end of the window?
Yeah. Well, these cars run 24 hours a day, every day. Apparently, a lot of wear and tear on these vehicles. I don't think that every 3 years is something unreasonable to, ask for as far as these vehicles. But we're able to get away with every 5 years, but I didn't think that every 3 years was something unreasonable for as much as we run those vehicles.
Great. And then I don't know if you have it in front of you. I don't have the PowerPoint you gave us. The amount you needed for those 6 cars, I believe that money is in that Opto. It can come right out of the Opto traffic money. I don't know if Jeff is here. I don't have the legislation for how those dollars could be spent, but could those dollars possibly come out of that for them to replace these 6 new patrol cars, or do we have to, as Cal suggested, pull it out of the surplus?
Now, from what I understand, that should come out of the Opto Traffic Fund.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
My suggestion, Carl, when you talked about funds and where they come from, check with the source and verify it from that way. It doesn't help us for the guests, I think, we just refer it to Cal, and Cal can answer the question for us. Okay. Instead of you guessing at it. And I'm not taking that as a slam. I'm hoping that we can do that and we know what's going on.
Yes, sir. I mean, I've been chief 2 months, so I'm still learning it. Yes, sir. And I've taken that under advisement.
We did the 2 weeks. We did the 2 weeks. We did the 1 month. Now we up to 2 months. We're gonna get 3 the next time.
It will get better as we go.
I got that.
To the chair.
But Basha's hands up, and then Anita.
Thank you, through the chair. This is actually dealing directly with what Councilman Turner asked. I was under the impression, I don't know if it was last year, didn't we allocate the opto traffic funds to pay for something? I think was it for the radios or something, Kyle? Like, I thought we already used that money. That's already like allocated somewhere.
Through the chair, we paid off the radios by pulling those payments forward. And this is the balance that was unused that's still left in the fund.
How much is that? Can you repeat that for me, please?
1 second. The year ending balance to start the calendar year is 464,000.
Okay, great. Thank you.
To the chair.
Anita, then Councilwoman Turner.
Okay. Chief, you said what you're using these cars for every 5 years, but I remember distinctly that we were advised that these cars were being rotated out on a 3-year basis, not 5 years. And that was up until last year. It was every 3, every 3 years. We just put a stop on it. Last year was the first year that he didn't get the cars. Your predecessor didn't get the cars that he wanted. So it's only been every 3 years. It's not 5 years of these new the patrol cars that are on the road. It wasn't last year. It wasn't the year before that. My colleagues who were there before, they all heard your predecessor say it's every 3 years. Now, if you want to maintain that rotation, that's all well and good. But the cars you have right now, as regular B cars, they weren't every 5 years. It was every 3 years. Okay, I just want you to be aware of it, that 3 years was the standard.
Yes.
Before you comment, Councilwoman Turner, Carl, are you on board with that analysis of your 3-5 year thing, or do you want to do some checking?
No, that's good. Every 3 years is fine with me.
Excuse me, to the chair.
Mhm.
I wasn't saying that I was supportive of every 3 years. I'm just advising that your predecessor stated just last year and the previous year that he was rotating these cars out every 3 years. And my thing was, why, if they don't all need it equally, are you rotating them out?
Good explain. I got that. It's a good explain. So if you can understand that, Carl, I think she's saying that she preferred the 5 years over the 3 years. But
I'm just saying, to the chair, what I'm saying is, we rotate them. If a car is needed, a car is needed, but just don't rotate it to spend the money because it was there. And that's what was occurring, is the money was there. It was being spent for cars and tires and holsters with the YPD logo on it and all kinds of stuff, and council follow directly. I apologize, Chief, if I carry this on a little longer. Council can go up there and vote that money for the cars. Okay, whatever purpose we choose to, we could pass required legislation. Just tell us that it's truly needed. Thank you.
Samantha?
Thank you. So if I could move on down from what you presented before, you went through a list of trainings that you will be doing this year with the officers: use of force, vehicle pursuit, human traffic, and there were, I think, 3 more. Could you reiterate those for me?
Those were legal refreshers, CPR for first responders, and additional first responder medical training.
Okay, and with that, what is the cost for training and how many officers do you are slated to receive this level of training?
I do not have those numbers in front of me, Councilwoman, but I can get those for you.
You did propose that to be added to your budget, though.
I did not. I just was updating you on where we are in the police department as far as our training.
Okay. Okay. I maybe and correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a cost to doing this training? And or no? Anita, you shaking your head. Is there a cost
I'll let the chief answer, but in the past, Chief, I'll let you.
Through the chair, yes, there are costs involved. Yes.
So I would ask if you could just update us on what the cost would look like, and then how many officers you're looking to ensure get this level of training, or is it department wide?
Department wide.
Okay. Great.
Through the chair.
This is Councilman Oliver.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm gonna have my hand up before Samantha.
I seen your hand. I should acknowledge that I saw your hand. I apologize.
But you seen my hand. Okay.
I saw your hand up and I was going to acknowledge you were next. And that was my fault.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. So through the chair, Chief, I got a couple questions. The new officers you want to bring on, that's with using that 800,000?
That is correct.
Okay, so I know we talked about this before, but once that 800,000 runs out, how do we maintain those officers?
From what I through general fund money through general fund money.
So that's going to put a pretty heavy burden on the general fund moving forward once the money runs out. Correct?
Through the chair, could I at least assist the chief here? Right now,
Cal, could you assist the chief, please?
yes. So if we go ahead and council gives the approval to appropriate this particular grant, it's my understanding that the chief is informing council that those 8 positions are going to be earmarked, not those actual officers, but he is going to fully staff the community police. Between now and 3 years, when that money dries up, there is going to be retirements. I'm not sure if those positions are then going to be backfilled, but those 8 positions that get hired under this particular grant, as long as those positions stay filled, those funds will funnel to the city and they will cover those positions. So in 3 years, if 8 officers retire, these 8 officers would just be, in essence, replacing 8 officers, and we would not be responsible other than for 25% of their total salary for the first 3 years. And then year 4, we would be responsible for 100%. But if the force was shrinking at the same time through attrition, we were at least backfilling. And as the chief is going to, like he said, promise that those officers are going to be in community police, it's meeting your needs and assisting the chief going forward with at least trying to be able to maintain a workforce that he then determines over the next 3 years as it slowly shrinks, how to modify that and make it work with the staffing levels that he has.
Thank you, Kyle. I would say it all seems pretty hypothetical. I would say we need a backup plan or a plan B. I definitely am in favor of hiring more community police officers or assigning more community police officers with or without these additional officers. My second question would be kind of to Anita's point. I'm pretty sure Chief got new cars like every budget cycle. Like, I don't even think we denied cars one time. I think that was like last year. So how many cars are out there on the road, unmarked cars that aren't in like regular patrol? And would you be able to pull those cars into multiple and equip them instead of having them out on the road, going here and there, back and forth to home. You know what I mean? Instead of just being take-home vehicles or whatever they're using them for. How many vehicles do you have out there that are unmarked SUVs or whatever they are that could be put into the rotation of cars?
I can through the chair.
Go ahead, Carl, Chief of Police Carl. Dave.
Councilman Oliver, I don't have that number in front of me, sir, but I can get that for you.
Is that something you would be willing to do, though? I mean, because I think that if we were already having a conversation, and I think, you know, council was pretty, I don't think we really just put our foot down, like, no more take-home cars. But is that something to do? Is it to outfit those cars and put them into the rotation?
I can look into it. Yes, sir.
I think you'd probably be able to save some money there, as well as have some cars that's, you know, ready to go.
To the chair.
I need to comment before we get too far in the wind here. Chief, you may or may not be aware that your predecessor threatened this committee. If we dock money, he was going to take services away. And I was hopeful when you became the chief that same approach wasn't going to be used on us. Now, you don't have the biggest stick that he was using, but on the same token, it's only after we do this and do that. I mean, there's no secret that council wants to see community police. It's no secret that council believe that constituents want the community police. It's no secret that the more experienced law enforcement members of council believe the community police is a very active and necessary function. But I'm still hearing that if in there only and that, and I'm disagreeing that that's proper. I'm disagreeing that that's anywhere near hitting what we need. Before you became chief, that money, that $800,000, it was on hold because we didn't want to encumbrance the burden of matching or something, as well as filling the jobs when it happened. That we received that money through a grant early on. We were going to let it go, from my understanding, because of how it was going to be, what the income outcome of it, and how it was going to be, how we had to accept it. And so we received this money, I think, over a year ago, you know, and there was complications on that because even your predecessor was advising not to spend the money when they did. Put all that aside, and what I'm saying is that I definitely personally had the biggest everything because I wanted to see community police. My constituents want the community police, and they didn't want to see the administrations threaten us and take it away, and then take it away. Now, you started off, you want us to use community police money for regular police officers. I disagree that that's the way it was supposed to be. I asked for an explanation from the law department. Is that proper? Is that what was the contract? What was the Justice Department's stipulations, restrictions on the money in order to use it? And why, if it wasn't community police, why do they title it community police money? You know, and then you and your predecessor say regular police. You're going to use the money for regular police. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not proper because you know, you're the nicest guy I know. You know, but the problem still is no one's gave me a fact finding, Derek. Can you maybe have one of your staffers, you know, that go over these this grant, this whatever we're calling that we got, and see what requirements are involved and what type of policing should be used with this, and give us a definition of that, you know. But I'm not ever going to be in favor of the what if, the ifs or the but, and we can use it only for community police if we can hire regular police. And, really, I think there's alternatives. I think there's big alternatives to this money. I understand I'm going off the beaten path here.
You're the chair. I'm gonna assume the chair.
No, you're not going to assume a chair. How are you going to assume a chair when you gave
I
the chair?
can, because I'm the chairperson. So, because I want to say, thank you. I have a question though. I've been trying to get a question. Are you now on the unfinished business, Jim?
We're on Chief Davis's response, to his. We're still on Chief Davis.
We're not on 2235?
Nope.
Okay. That's I was just trying to get a word in and ask that question because you lost me. I'm like, where you at?
We at the community police funding and the use of community police in the Youngstown Police Department as he was directing what he's going to do and when we was going to get these 4 or restore the community police. That's where we're at. That's what the talk was about.
Through one of the chairs. I think Miss Slattery wanted to.
Trying to get a hand in.
What you said.
I see. I was going to say Lieutenant Slattery's, but you have to please go. Slattery, please, Mr. Slattery. You might be muted if you're talking because I don't see it. I don't hear it.
I don't think her audio is working.
I'm unmuted.
I hear you now. I hear you now. Can you hear me? I can't hear you now. Okay. She can't communicate. I see Anita Davis and Carl. I don't expect a response to anything I just said. I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda to move this on. Anita, you got.
I'm through the chair. My question.
Samantha whose hand is up, not mine.
Through the chair. My question is I have 2 questions. First, for Chief Davis, if I walked into the police department, I'm only going to find cars that are 5 years and younger, right? I'm not going to see a patrolman in a car older than that, right? That's how that works with the schedule of changing.
Yes, and through the chair, in most of the marked police cars, yes.
Most of the marked police cars, and those that are not are the ones you're proposing to upgrade.
No, the ones I'm proposing to upgrade are the marked cars.
The marked cars. Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is if I walked in, all of them are going to be 5 years and younger, but there may be some that are older.
Yes.
Okay. And you're proposing these new cars replace the older cars that are 5 years and older.
That is correct.
Okay. And you only have 6 of those.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And then my next question actually is for Cal. To Councilman Oliver's point, can you create for us a graph that shows us year over year the cost of, I know the grant, I think it's for 5 years or 3 years, and we pay 25%, and then it.
Through the chair, I can explain it.
Well, what I'm saying is that I would like to see what is the cost each year, how it goes up, and so we can see the effects on the general fund after the grant period now and then after the grant period for 3 years after the grant period.
Yes. I don't need to do a chart. I'll actually just put the numbers, but I can tell you what the difference, because right now we know exact, and everything is based on if an officer comes with a family. So if, say, an officer is hired and he's single or she's single, we have calculated 8 officers, fully family, getting all the benefits they can receive. So if we were to hire 8 officers and they're all single, we actually are going to get that money longer because they award us so much upfront. And it's based on if an officer has a full family. So if we were to hire 8 and they were all single, that actual $800,000, if we just round out to 800, would be extended because the money that we're getting is based on if we had 8 officers and they were all married and based on our healthcare coverage costs, we would get so much money per year for 3 years and it would be exhausted at the end of the 3rd year. But if they were all hired and they were single, the money would actually last longer than 3 years. But that's because when we request the actual grant, we built it on the foundation that our highest cost would be this amount. And that's why we would at least get 3 years. But yes, I can put that together and I can send that out tomorrow to all of you to show you what our responsibility would be in total if we hired 8 after the 1st year, what it would be after the 2nd year, after the 3rd year, and then if everybody met the criteria that we built the grant on, how much it would cost us in year 4. And that will also take into account if there was wage increases and what that responsibility of the city would be fully in year 4.
Thank you. And I don't want to complicate it, but if you could do single versus married, so we have a window, or show us what the window is.
Yes, I can do that because I know the difference. So yes, what it'll do is it'll just mean that in that 4th year, some of those costs would still be reimbursed, and I'll show you what that is. And then I'll be able to tell you what the gap would be between their full salary and how much we'd have left over. Yes, I can provide that.
Thank you.
To the chair, Jimmy, Gail is on the phone. She's calling in through the phone.
Are we able to listen to her?
Give it a shot.
Is she there? Are you there, Miss Slattery?
I think you might want to ask Valencia or somebody if that's okay to do.
I think you just did.
Gail?
I see her on there, but she's muted.
Unmute yourself. Well,
I don't think I can do it, but
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Through the chair, can I speak now? I wasn't able to hear the meeting while I was dialing in.
Is this Slattery?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. You can speak. I think nobody was talking, right? Go ahead. You got the floor.
Okay, so you had asked or made a comment about community policing and why the grant, it was called Community Police Hiring Program. Am I correct?
Am I correct in thinking that you are aware of the parameters of the grant?
Yes, sir, I am. So the old grant was, yes, you are correct, the cops or community policing hiring program. This new grant is just CHP, cops hiring program. Now it does talk about using community policing strategies, and it does mention that you may use, just because you hire 8 new officers, you may use seasoned officers to fill those positions. I thought that was one of your comments as well, or possibly a question.
Yeah. So, and at the end of this period of time, and do you have the figures of what our matching and what we have to maintain them after the end of that? You have any information about that?
I do, sir. I have all that. So briefly, briefly in a big, I'm going to break it down into an easy ballpark number. So they're asking the city to pay $266,000.
I'm sorry, point of order. Gail, I'm so sorry. Through the chair, have we moved into unfinished business?
So you're saying that, pardon me?
Jimmy, are we officially moved into unfinished business? Just as a point of order.
I think I went back because she was not able to respond in the order that we were in. She called in and we got her now talking. In the previous order.
Excuse me, through the chair. This is
Yeah.
Valencia. I need to know, where are we in the agenda? Are we officially moving to unfinished business, asking Ms. Slattery about ordinance 20-235? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we're talking about.
Through the chair.
We brought this up in the previous order. Nita.
Well, yeah, but that's why when I had asked where you were at, because I noticed that you were talking about something that was related to this was under unfinished business, but you were talking about it under the new business in the police department update, because I still have a question under the police department update.
She was brought up in the police department update. That's when Slattery had the floor and couldn't communicate. It is my understanding when she came back on, that's the order we're in, hopefully. But if we're not, we're not. Somebody, Valencia can tell me, we'll move to that order and call it a day.
To the chair, I just wanted to get a question out to the chief before we go to the unfinished business.
So you want to go to?
I have a question before Gail finishes her answer. I'm going to go back because I still had a question under section 2, and it was simply a question for the chief and I was asking. I want to know about the calls for service, and also about his use of force. Because so I have 2 questions. Number 1, what is the call for service count? And number 2, under your use of force policy, you mentioned at a meeting earlier this week that handcuffing is considered a use of force, and I wanted to be clarified. I wanted to be cleared on that you consider that part of the use of force continuum.
Miss Slattery, I think we're going to have to try to get you in the next go around for those that information.
That's okay. I retract my question. That's okay. I withdraw my question. Go ahead.
Miss Slattery, I think we can get you in this go around and continue, please.
Okay, so just really quickly and very simply, they're asking us to match 266,000 of them, and they're going to give us 800,000 roughly. So if you look at it, it generally, from the calculations proposed in the grant for one officer for 1 year, it was roughly $133,500, right? For 1 year, for just one full-time officer. So we have to, in general, in kind of simplistic terms, they're asking us to pay for 2 full-time officers what we would pay for 2 in a year over 3 years, and we would actually get 6 free then, if I could use that. So if we plan on hiring, the city of Youngstown plans on hiring at least 2 officers in the next 3 years, I would suggest that it would be silly not to appropriate this money.
I can understand that, and I can understand your comments too. And is there anything else? Anybody else got any questions for her before we move to unfinished? Done? Thank you.
Basha, her hand has been up for the last.
Well, so, I clearly tell you, you're going to have to do something. Thank you, Miss Slattery.
You're welcome.
Basha?
Thank you, through the chair. And I'm not sure, I guess this is kind of part question, part comment. Earlier, we were discussing community policing, and this grant and utilizing the grant for community policing. And then I was wondering, if we did not accept the grant, would we still be able to fill the voids of the community police officers and maybe make some moves? Then thinking about that, obviously we don't want to lose our patrol. That would seem that would be kind of hard to do. So perhaps whether we accept the grant or we don't accept the grant, maybe in the future we can apply for more CBDG funding for those community police officers. Or I'm not sure what the solution would be, but it seems as though we as a group, as well as our constituents, do want to move towards community policing. So I guess it's more so at this point a comment, because then the conversation continued on for a long time.
I'm sorry for not recognizing you sooner. I give you that. You're saying that it looks like we're stuck with what we have. Apply for more.
I was just trying to think, say, for example, if we decide, it sounds as though the way that it is being planned to increase community policing is through this grant. And that if we don't accept the grant, that it sounds as though administration is saying we would not be able to increase community police officers. So now I'm just trying to find an alternative means of how we would be able to do so. So I'm kind of just like brainstorming out loud at this point, unless I'm not understanding it correctly. If we do not accept this grant, would we be able to replenish our community police officers? I guess is my question.
No, they clearly are saying that they're not able to without additional funding. So sure, they're not willing, if not unable. And I don't think we need to. We move on. I get what you're saying. It's a cause. They heard you. They heard me. They heard what's going on. They'll make their decisions when they will. They won't. They want regular police officers, and that's where they want the money to go. They're willing to say they'll give us 4, and as what Mrs. Slattery was explaining, it's a big flexible amount of money that they're giving us, and we're saving money. So we're going to probably wind up using it and going back and forth. But Cal, if he can comment on this.
Cal had to leave.
Oh, Cal had to leave. Okay, well then that's the best I can say. Your comments received.
Through the chair.
Yes, somebody got their hand up. Speak.
I had my hand up.
Anita.
Chief. Chief Davis.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Chief Davis. I just want to make sure I have it clear from you, because I'm not sure if I would have a problem passing this thing for on my part, voting in support of this, because I would hate to see us turn down the $800,000, and I do believe that there are ways to generate the revenue to help support these hires after the grant runs out. Because this is where I would have to go back to the previous section. But if I have it correct from what Councilman Hughes is saying, you're saying that for us to get to 3 additional community police officers, we would have to utilize 3 of the 8 officers that would be hired under this new grant. Is that correct, Chief?
Through the chair, that would be correct.
Okay, but the hiring process would be a while. Would it be possible to should this piece go forward, if the finance director says it is feasible, to immediately put the officers into community policing, and then you hire the additional officers, the additional 5 officers as well, so that we get the use of the community police officers right away? Because I truly don't want to go up there and support this thing here, and then we as council have to wait until everything else gets taken care of. I would want to see those community police officers front loaded. Could we get a, and I don't want you to just give me a word, but think about that one and see if you can make a commitment to that, to giving us those officers up front. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
I don't know who had the hand up first. Councilman Oliver.
Thank you. First word. Thank you. I appreciate it. What I would like to see is to Anita's point, what I would like to see is a commitment up front before we pass legislation to support the grant. I want to see the community police officers restored now, and seeing them restored now, like tomorrow, then we can go ahead and say, okay, the police department has already put in their commitment. Now council was able to commit to our part of it. That's what I would like to see. If it's going to happen, if the community police are going to come back to each ward, I want to see that now, as opposed to after the grant. Like, give me my community police officer and my colleagues, community police officers now, and then we'll give you the 800 for the additional officers. That's what I want to see. I'm being Samantha before she get to be Samantha. I want to see it now. Thank you.
I will through the chair, I will definitely commit to that.
Thank you, Chief. I will take you at your, we have your word.
You have my word.
Excuse me, Chief.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chief. You heard him say now, tomorrow, and that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, tomorrow's not. I mean,
I don't know nothing. I'm just telling you what he said.
Okay.
You the chief. You can make it happen.
Was that Samantha? And I think somebody sounded like Cal was there, but go ahead, Samantha.
So my first thing is that if we go back to the budget hearing for police, Jimmy asked Chief to commit to doing that upfront, and he already committed to do that. So that's the reason for my line of questioning earlier. So yes, I'm glad that you have committed, but you've already memorialized the fact that you would do that. So I would like to see that happen. Next is, I guess this question is for Gail, who I'm assuming you're the author of the grant, correct? Is she here? You're listening?
Correct.
Correct.
I just had to hit.
She's here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So as the author of the grant, now to my understanding, this was last year, and I know that it was on hold. What is the effective dates on this, and how does this work with us not accepting it until possibly this point? Does it affect how this will work for us? Can we move effective dates? Where are we at in the process?
Okay, through the chair. Yes, very good questions. The effective date was June 25th, 2020 to June 30th, 2023. So in essence, how the grant works is the officers are reimbursed for 36 months. So it does say it's a 3-year grant, but it's 36 months from the date of hire. So for instance, we just finished up a prior hiring grant that was way back from 2016. And that's because that we had not exhausted the 36 months per officer. So that grant in essence lasted 5 years. So the same thing with this one. As soon as the person comes on board or the officers come on board, the clock starts ticking, and it's 36 months. If we go beyond the threshold of the June 30th, 2023 time period, I simply ask for an extension through the DOJ. And probably outside of the point of your questions, if we just kind of for everybody's food for thought here, if we do turn this grant down and send it back to the DOJ, so this is the city of Youngstown's grant, just know that for future grants, we would probably go to the bottom of the pile as far as them funding our grants, because we're kind of throwing the money back at them that they offered us. But that's just Just a FYI, that's all.
I got that. Gil, do we have any other grants in the hopper now in the process? Just briefly, then Samantha can continue.
Thank
you. Do we? Do you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I'm not sure.
I was asking, do we have any other grants that we applied for, waiting for response or anything in that line?
No, currently, all the grants that have been applied for have been accepted or awarded. I haven't written any yet, but the time is coming, right? They all open up in March generally.
We're in March. Samantha?
Thank you. And just a direct follow-up, Gail. So help me make sure that I'm clear. This is a COPS grant. So it doesn't specifically say for community and policing, it is used to increase the police force, correct?
This one specifically says COPS hiring program. Yeah, so it's to increase the police force, but with kind of a leaning towards community policing.
Okay, great.
And our former chief kind of said, all of our officers were trained in community police. They were all community policing. But it's for reduction of violence. It's for officer safety. There's several criteria underneath there in the hiring aspect. But community policing is one of them, yes.
Great. And then the next question is just for Chief, and my final question. So were you planning, prior to the commitment, were you planning to have new officers join community policing or transfer more seasoned officers into community policing and the new officers join the ranks?
Through the chair.
Chief.
That's a good question. Yes, I would definitely be using seasoned officers for those positions.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Sorry.
No, you can go, Anita. I was just saying I got to exit the meeting.
Okay, thank you. To the chair.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Davis.
Yes.
Sir, it sounds like a banjo.
It's my banjo, and I'm strumming it. And I'm going to say, I don't know how my other members of this committee feel. But,
You're breaking.
Like I said,
Councilwoman Davis, you're breaking up. You're not coming through.
Okay.
You're still breaking up.
Through the chair, Councilman. Thank you, Chairperson. I think, because Anita's breaking up, I think she's trying to say that she's not sure how the rest of the committee feels, but that she's prepared to forward this ordinance to the rest of council for consideration of passage.
Correct.
Now that came in real clear.
That's because I got real close.
I think that Samantha, you didn't have anything else, right? I think we're at the close. We're at that last spot there, unless we could take some action.
Well, I do have a request to the chair.
You got the floor, Anita, Councilman Davis.
Okay. Chief, I would like for you to, I hear, the police department's a place of gossip that your department is looking at some way of getting back to the opto camera system. And if that's the case, please have that information ready to present to us at the next meeting. Thank you.
Even though that wasn't on the agenda, I get you, Neat.
That's not on the agenda. It's under, you asked if there's anything else, and that was my anything else.
I got you.
Okay.
We're at a point for action. Is there a motion in order?
Yes, through the chair, I would like to make a motion to forward ordinance number 20-235 to the council floor for consideration of passage.
Second.
Trying to think the proper thing. What motion passed? Is there any other business on this? Is there another motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Pass. Have a good evening.